Welcome back everybody to another episode of our weekly Moto News Update, where this time around we've got a packed show with new bikes from Norton, APRILIA and Kawasaki, 7 new bikes on the way from KTM and potentially 2 killed off, trying for running a custom Bonneville competition where you can vote, and there's a pair of beautiful customs too just unveiled by BMW. Then perhaps the Tenere that everybody's been waiting for, some big news on electric brands ENERGICA and Stark, some new aerotech from CFMOTO, some cheap finance deals from Ducati and ENFIELD, and we'll round off with a MotoGP bike that you might actually be able to afford. But before we get underway, a quick reminder that it's the last week to get entered into our awesome giveaway that we're running in partnership with Chigee. In it, you can primarily win their iO6 system, which can be pretty much installed on any bike, and it opens up a touchscreen which gives you CarPlay and Android Auto, dashcams, blind spot warnings, a GPS tracker and more. But then on top of that, it also pairs with some of Insta360's action cameras, and so we're also throwing in their latest Ace Pro 2. And finally with this one, we're also giving you a year's premium membership for motorcycle navigation app Moto, which you can also use through the iO6 system via CarPlay. So look, it's one heck of a prize worth pretty much £1,000, and so if it does sound like your sort of thing, then definitely have a look at the link in the description to get entered, and also down there you'll find a discount code specifically for our viewers in case you don't win. So once again, a massive thanks to Chigee for offering such an amazing prize, and get yourself entered because we'll be announcing the winner in our next episode. But let's kick off with Norton and their upcoming revision to their V4 powered sports bike. And I'm sure if you've been watching the channel closely, you'll have seen last week that we posted some spy shots which appear to show a new front end that looks a lot like a Ducati, like one of the previous gen Panigales, although to be fair, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Then there's a new frame that ditches that polished aluminium tube construction for a more conventional cast aluminium frame, semi-active Öhlins suspension, top spec Brembo high pure brakes, and then some other stuff like the engine, wheels and swing arms seem to be carried over from the most recent V4 SV. Perhaps as well you might see some tweaks to the engine. It makes, well, the previous gen about 185 horsepower, so they might have found a way to get a bit more out of it. But all in all, it looks pretty promising, and I think the visuals are a massive improvement. Anyway, following on from that, perhaps in response to the bike going public, as they were also those spy shots in print last week in MCN, well, they've released their own shots, Norton, of their owners, TVS's managing director, taking the bike out for a test ride. Now, these official pics don't necessarily show a great deal more than the spy shots that we looked at, a few days prior. They've only really given a head-on shot, so you can't really make out much about the spec of the bike. But the press release does confirm that it will be fully unveiled at EICMA this year in Milan, and so it's about 5 months away before we get to see it in all its glory. On top of all that though, MCN managed to snag an interview with their executive directors, in which they confirmed that they've got 6 new bikes on the way on 3 different platforms, and also that they intend to move away from the predominantly retro image. I think that will still make up some of their lineup, but also it will consist of contemporary bikes as well that should be able to compete on performance and tech with the rest of the market. So a bit of a change of direction for Norton, which I think will be a good thing. But will it be as good as Aprilia's latest attempt though? It would have to be some buy, because Cycle World report this week that Aprilia filed a trademark for the name XGP, which they're expecting to be some kind of like MotoGP replica. Now, Aprilia do have a bit of form with the X naming. They've had some pretty extreme versions in the past of their RSV4 sports bike, like the RSV4X in 2019, the X Trenta in 2022, and the most recent would be the RSV4X X Tremor in 2024, which was made in just 30 units worldwide, and they sold for about $93,000 each. So yeah, this XGP that they've trademarked is expected to follow pretty much the same blueprint of being a track-only model, so no license plate, mirrors or lights. And of course, it'll get the best of the best in terms of braking, suspension, bodywork and tech. And if it was a MotoGP replica, you might expect a bit of a boost over the standard RSV4 engine, which already makes, over 200 horsepower. Whatever it is though, one thing is for sure, and that's that not many of us will be able to afford one. Thankfully, Kawasaki are keeping it real though with the updated 2026 version of their trusty Versys 650. Now this one is a decent workhorse with their 650 parallel twin. It's got plenty of wind protection, it's got a nice comfortable riding position, and also an achievable price tag with it coming in for 2026 at a smidge over £8,000. Then there's a 4.3-inch colour TFT dash, traction control as standard, LED lighting all round, all of which are carried over from last year, but they have updated it with some fresh new colour options with a grey and a black, but then also this rather nice deep blue metallic, which is a bit of a refreshing change, I'd say, for Kawasaki, and I reckon is the best of the three. Meanwhile though, over at KTM, well, they're getting ready over the next few weeks and months to launch a whopping 7 new dirt bikes, with them recently posting a teaser on their Instagram account, and you can click through to the website and see the official details. Now, in short, they've got a new motocross bike first, then a mini motocross bike, then a cross-country bike, then an enduro bike, then a 6 days model, then a 450 SMR, and lastly, some electric minis too. So it certainly sounds like KTM are going to be very busy in the next few months, although it was reported by motorcycle.com that they have dropped, very quietly, a couple of their key affordable road models, at least in the US anyway. Both the 790 Duke and the 790 Adventure, which are both decent, good value bikes in my opinion, have been almost entirely removed from their US website, and motorcycle.com speculate that it's down to the fact that they're both made in China by CFMOTO, and so they're being held back due to the impact of trade tariffs. Perhaps they will still make a comeback though, because they've kept the dedicated page for each bike on the website. It's just that they've been removed from the menus and the category pages and stuff like that. So potentially it's just a temporary pause, or maybe it's permanent. I guess time will tell. It's no big secret though that Triumph have been working on a baby version of their now discontinued THRUXTON Cafe Racer, powered by their 400 single-cylinder platform and very similar in spec to their existing Speed 400 Roadster. We reported on the spy shots a few months back, but it looks like it could be on the way pretty soon, with more instances of it being seen out testing in public. Indian motorcycle news website Bike Wally claim it'll be launched over there in August this year, and so it'll be interesting to see if other markets follow. You see, the Scrambler 400 XC, which is a slightly more off-road biased version, well, that was first introduced in India too, but then a few weeks later they rolled it out globally, and so potentially we might see the same sort of release schedule for this new bike. And Mini THRUXTON looks like a really good proposition to me, and I loved riding the Speed 400. It's an absolute blast for such a, modest bike. And so here's hoping this one does come to the UK. On top of that, Triumph also recently unveiled the 8 entrants into their latest custom build-off, with bikes from teams in the USA, from Canada, Mexico, Brazil, France, Italy, Thailand, and also here in the UK. So here's a quick look through them. Some of them are just fantastic. Like this, the entry from France from FCR Original, which is based upon a Speed Twin 1200, and definitely for me the back end with the disc wheel and the custom subframe and the custom swing arm, plus the little Cafe Racer seat section. Well, that whole area of the bike is the standout feature for me. Zeus Custom from Bangkok, Thailand came up with this T100 in their signature style, which I've long been a fan of. And then in the UK, we've got Charlie Stockwell at Triumph London with this 60s inspired rock and roll take on the T100 as well. Then from Brazil, we've got another Speed Twin 1200, this very stealthy looking thing from Shibuya in Sao Paulo. From Italy, there's a bobber by Giuseppe Carucci with some slick bespoke parts on it, like that girder fork. Canada's Moto Illimité came up with this subtle but sweet looking Speed Twin 1200. And from Mexico, we've got a bobber by After Cycles with design cues taken from iconic British names, like the yellow stitching on the saddle being a reference to Doc Martin boots. Rounding us off, we've got this bold blue T120 from Triumph Indianapolis, and they've assembled a panel of judges who will whittle down these 8 bikes to 5 finalists, and then you'll be able to vote on it on their website. So we'll follow up as soon as those have been announced. In the meantime, let me know your pick though down in the comments below. Also knocking out a couple of beautiful customs this week, we've got BMW in collaboration with German custom house Voidwerk. These ones are called the Speed Sisters, one based upon the R12, the other on the larger R18, and they're full of technical tweaks like the bespoke tank covers, upgraded suspension, upgraded brakes, and more. But it's the paint jobs that look fantastic to me, and they're said to symbolize, in a sort of slightly tongue-in-cheek way, the seasons of the Bavarian forest, with them being 3/4 white and then 1/4 green. Lovely stuff. Both look fantastic to me, especially that slightly beefier R18. Perhaps though the coolest custom of the week is a bike that's been doing the rounds on social media, and it's from Purpose Built Moto, and it's called the Yamaha MT-09 Rally Raid. It could be, I guess, viewed as a bit of a preview of what a 900 version of the Tenere would look like if only Yamaha would build it. And so that means you've got 115 horsepower triple at the heart of it, but jacked up on long travel suspension, oversized spoke wheels with knobbly tyres, and you get an open off-road friendly riding position along with that long rally style bench seat. Super cool if you ask me, and it's definitely worth a watch on their YouTube channel because there's a full 20 minutes of detail, so great if you want to geek out on this stuff. Next up, Italian electric motorcycle brand ENERGICA are said to be back, having gone out of business towards the back end of 2024. A post on their Instagram recently said the judicial process undergoing the sale of ENERGICA has assigned ENERGICA to investors from Singapore. They're enthusiasts that believe in and share the common values of ENERGICA. If the sales process comes through successfully, the same team behind ENERGICA will be entrusted to run the operations and will continue creating cutting-edge technologies for our customers. Fingers crossed. I've got to say, they make some crazy fast bikes, or they have done in the past, beautiful looking as well, and so perhaps with the right kind of guidance from some investors, they can make them as crazy, as fun to look at, but commercially viable as well. You see, it's not unusual though for electric brands to struggle. Most of them, like Zero and Livewire, are regularly running at a loss. But one that stands apart from the crowd is Spanish off-road electric brand Stark, who apparently have turned a profit just 6 years after being founded and only 2 years after shipping their first bikes to customers. For Q2 2025, they reported 47 million euros in revenue and 4.5 million in EBITDA. And their CEO, Anton Vass, said Tesla took 14 years to turn a profit, and we did it in 6, and we're only just getting started. So clearly they know what they're doing. But I also feel like perhaps electric motorcycles make more sense for off-roading, where speeds and distances are generally lower, where other brands, the bigger, more mainstream brands, have tried to make road bikes where the range just isn't appealing to, your average biker. What do you think though? Let me know down in the comments below. Also this week, CFMOTO filed an interesting new patent, picked up by Cycle World, who are always on the ball with this stuff, that appears to show flip-out winglets that only deploy when they're, specifically needed. They speculate that could be for a given riding mode, for example, so if you went into a track mode, they might pop out for a bit more downforce. Or it could be speed dependent because they only become effective above, a fairly decent clip. Then again, you could just hit the deploy button at a standstill and then you've got somewhere to pop your brew when you're outside, your cafe stop. Now, Enfield are keen to shift some bikes at the moment with a 0% finance deal on their Shotgun 650 Sporty Cruiser, which means you can pay 50% of the bike up front and then 50% 2 years later as a final payment with no interest, like I say, and also no monthly payments in between. So if you're looking to buy one cash, but you might want to put off paying the full sum up front, then this one's definitely worth looking into. And the other deal that they're running at the moment is some extra kit bundled in with their Super Meteor 650. All new Astro models, they're saying, are getting over 800 quid of accessories with a touring seat, backrest, touring screen and panniers, all now thrown in. And so if you're looking for an Enfield that can cover a bit of distance in comfort, then this one might be the better one to look at. Then Ducati are also on a bit of a push in the UK with some finance deals for 4.9% across their V4 lineup. So the Panigale, the Street Fighter, the Multistrada, the Diavel and the X-Diavel, and then just 2.9% on their brilliant Hypermotard 698 Mono. So that means you can get the Hypermotard 698 for £99 a month in terms of the monthlies, providing you cough up the right deposit. Or for the Panigale V4, for example, well, it comes in at 169 quid a month, which they say is their best ever deal, although it does require a £6,073 down payment and then a final repayment on PCP of 14,882 quid. So, you know, still probably prohibitive for a lot of us. Then again, if you do want a fancy sporty spec Ducati on a budget, then there's some good news as Visordown report that they've just announced an official licensing deal with toy manufacturer Peg Perego. So there's a weird sort of MotoGP come trike with a headlight sort of thing, an adventure bike that looks actually more like a Hypermotard, but they've given it the full luggage, or this, a race replica MotoGP bike complete with Pecco stickers. As always though, I'd love to know what you think of the stories this week, so do let me know down in the comments below. And if you missed that Norton Spy Shots video where I go into all the details, which it didn't get that many views, so I don't know why it flew under the radar, but if you did miss it and you want to find out more, then I'll put it on the screen now so you can check it out. Do hit subscribe as well if you want to see more of the latest motorcycle news and reviews like this right here on MOTOBOB. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video.